I am super excited to be in front of you today. Not for any reason of me getting the attention, but because I know that we all share a common interest. How do I know that we share a common interest? Because all of us have this innate ability to look for the hope in circumstances. One of the ways that I love to find the hope was especially when I was a kid. Did anybody like to watch superhero movies and shows? My question to you is, what is your favorite superhero? Who is the person that you would go to find your motivation? I know some people would watch TV and they would watch Power Rangers and be encouraged when they would morph into the Power Rangers and they would see them save the day. No matter what was thrown at them, no matter how small or how gigantic, the Zords would show up and they would do what was necessary to win. Batman always knew he had the strength inside of him to take over. No matter who he faced, no matter how difficult it got, it was some unique idea, some creative invention, something he paid for, that could always make him become the most successful he could be. Superman lost everything, had one weakness, yet ultimately he still had the ability to overcome. We saw superheroes all the time. I don't know about you, but when I watched superhero TV shows, it made me feel like ultimately one day somebody could save the day. Somebody could show up and rescue me out of certain situations, that somebody could show up and give me the strength that I needed to help me know what overcoming looked like. When we watched these shows, we understood that every superhero started somewhere. No matter who they were, no matter where they came from, no matter what their greatest strength was, they started from a place. They all had an origin story. What is an origin story, you may ask? The truth is, an origin story is the account or backstory revealing how a character or group of people became a protagonist or antagonist, and it adds to the overall interest, value, or complexity of their story. What that means is it tells us and teaches us exactly where they came from, why it was so hard for them, why they decided to fight these battles in the first place, why they decided to go through the things that they went through, why they decided to be who they needed to be in those circumstances. It taught them exactly who they were. I mean, everybody has an origin story, whether super or not. We all have a place we started from. If you look at my story, I was a supreme athlete. There's a picture of me playing basketball. I used to be this guy who was ranked in the state, super athletic, had so many opportunities for a future. There was this time in my life where I knew I was going to be successful. I was 16 years old, going into my junior year, being recruited by multiple people. I had an opportunity for something great, living in Memphis, Tennessee, playing on a basketball team that we knew we had a chance to be successful. I had one of the best camps I ever had. And one day, sitting at home, excited about the year, watching TV, we see something on the news. See, they like to do these news reports informing people about the community that they live in. This time they did this one news report called, "Do You Know Your Teachers?" And we're wondering what's so special about this TV show and why we were watching it, and then a familiar face popped up. My father. My dad, former professional baseball player, was a school teacher, teaching in the city of Memphis. And this news report decided that this day they were going to inform the entire city about my father's history. They were going to expose his skeletons. They were going to bring out his mistakes, his failures, everything that he ever went through. They were going to tell the world. They shared about DUIs, about charges, about jail time, about different experience that he had to go through that ultimately affected us and our household. Then they showed up knocking at our door, asking to speak to my father, showing where we lived. From that day, he could no longer teach in Memphis. From that day, I no longer felt safe in my own home. From that day, my past, my situation, my pain, my personal struggle, the things that I cried about at night, the things that drowned me in my sleep, the things that made me feel like quitting and throwing in the towel were exposed to the world. See, I no longer could keep my secrets quiet. I no longer could keep my pain quiet. The world was exposed to what I had to experience. See, from that day, we made a decision because everything shifted for us to move across the country to California. I went from understanding exactly who I was, where I belonged, and what my future looked like to not knowing anything at all. Going to a place that I had no idea that I was going. I had no idea of what to expect. I had no idea of belonging, of safety. I had to run away from a situation that became dim and dark, and I did not know what was coming next. See, if you were to look at my origin story was riddled in fear. It was weighted by loss, failure, isolation, abandonment, rejection, separation. It made me feel like there wasn't anything that I could do. It put me in a situation where my back was against the wall, my chest was pressed down by the circumstances, and I had to come to a realization that I was no longer the same person anymore. See, every time we take a step forward, every time we face the next portion of our story, every time we go into the next positions in our lives, we have to come to a place to understand that the parts of our stories that are moving us to the next level need one foundational thing. No matter what we go through, no matter what our circumstances are, no matter what the pain looks like, every superhero has one trait. And that trait is resiliency. If you ever imagined becoming resilient, if you ever imagined overcoming, if you ever imagined pushing forth, then there's a little bit of a superhero that lives inside of you. See, every time I envisioned my story, every time you've envisioned your story, every time you've been discouraged by your circumstances, you had to make a choice. You had to become witness of the moment. You had to become aware of what was happening there, and you had to decide what you were going to do right now. See, there's this book, a Success Principles Handbook, in fact, and there's this equation that comes up, and it's E plus R equals O. That means events plus response equals the outcome. The truth is that things happen. My life was shifted upside down based off of something that had nothing to do with me. Your lives may be overwhelming. Your stories may be filled with abuse, filled with addiction, filled with pain and torment, but you have a choice on how you respond. There's this quote by Mike Tyson. He said, "Everybody has a plan until you're punched in the face." My question is, how do you respond when life punches you in the face? You want to determine the outcome, then you have to respond by getting up. You want to shift your situation, you have to respond with hope. You want to make yourself go into success, you have to respond with resiliency. See, I came up with these ideas from this guy I like to call Timothy, this younger version of who I used to be. And there were these things that I learned through my journey and my struggle. There were 3 areas that made a difference in how I understood how to overcome. 1 was catch. 2 was consider, and 3 was create. See, with catching, that means you have to decide when situations get hard, circumstances get tough, when the pain gets overwhelming, you have to build up your self-awareness and realize that you've slipped from a state that might make you last and make you stay in a place that shifts your mindset. Have you ever dealt with hopelessness? Have you ever dealt with pain? See, the difference between standing there and dealing with pain and living in pain is what you do after. You might get a cut, but if you decide to put a Band-Aid on it and let it heal, then you can walk out healthy. But if you allow that thing to get disgusting, then what are you going to do next? Next, following catch, you have to consider. You have to consider, is it worth you staying in this position, or is it worth you doing whatever's necessary to get to the next level? You have to count the cost of your circumstance. See, moving into overcoming, operating in resiliency, becoming the superhero of your story isn't going to be easy. You have to make sure that when you start stepping forward, that you don't step back. When you start moving in the motivation, that you don't quit. When you start going to the next level, that you don't throw in the towel. Or you have to decide, is it worth staying in this absent place, in this abandoned moment, in this feeling like you could never return? You have to decide and consider what's worse. Last, you need to create. Create and develop routines. Create and develop different things you can use, like coping skills, writing, utilizing creativity, motivating yourself, and finding collaborative moments and management opportunities to push yourself into the next level. Any good superhero has some good super friends. I mean, you look at Justice League, you look at the Avengers, you look at everybody around you. You want to be a great superhero, you shouldn't do it by yourself. Find other super people around you who you could bounce your story off of, who you could be motivated through, encouraged and pushed forward, who you could find safety in. Superheroes are only super because they find something to stand for. My question to you is, what has been keeping you from your superpowers? Have you let fear become your kryptonite? Have you let pain, regret, failure, hopelessness, loss, difficult situations, what have you allowed to become your kryptonite? What have you allowed to tell you no, to make you feel like you can't, you won't, you never can, and today is the day where you stop? What has made you feel like pausing? The reality of today, the opportunity in today, the reason why I'm standing before you today is because I want you to know that resiliency is innate inside of you, and it's the thing that's going to crack open your superpowers. I want to share a poem that might mention some of your favorite superheroes, maybe Superman, maybe X-Men, maybe Batman, maybe, I don't know, Star Wars, whoever you might find in there. There's going to be something that connects with you. Hello, 911. I have an emergency. No one's hurt yet, but I'm fighting off some insecurities, and they're torturing, and they're kind of relentless, and I can't even sleep because they stole my dreams and everything that's left inside of me. I think they're trying to murder it. Please, send help quick. Have you ever been so desperate that you wish your soul could have emergency surgery, like put me under, give me open heart to where the chains start, take scalpel to my flesh until you cut away all the dead parts? It started when I was asked the question the other day, one that made me think. The question was, if you could name your greatest fear, what would it be? I pondered for a little bit, search my inner me, search through corridors and doors that were locked by only me, fumbling through my thoughts, searching for the key, patting my pockets like that video you've seen. And some of you may not get that, but all of you, most of you, have gotten lost trying to find this thing, wondering if it's success or failure, or maybe just your local enemy. I heard a quote. It was from a movie, Coach Carter, I believe. You remember that scene? They said it's not the darkness, but the light that frightens me. But honestly, why does what we fear even have to be a question? See, I've battled with excuses for a while now. Hands bloodied, eyes blacked, and knees bowed, shirt ripped so I can't wear my emotions on my sleeve now. Contempt, so tired of running that now I got my feet bound. I quit because apparently I made this into a lifestyle. So sick and tired of being forced to swallow this defeat down. Focus has always been a problem for me with distractions, and then there's people. See, I'm using an excuse now. And I battled with excuses for a while now. Toiled with the torment from my dark side until I found my inner Jedi. Dear Lord, the enemy is after me, trying to sift my faith and leave me Anakin. Dark, you can't escape this light. Saber you down, prepare to fight this. Force Awaken has more. Have you seeing stars? This means war. And if God never gave you the spirit of fear, then where did it come from? Where does your power range from? Is it defeat or dominion? You traded a sound mind and strength with the gift from the dark one. He said, fly on wings like eagles. Who said your sword done and you never have to stand alone? See, heaven sends you safety like an angel grove. This team brings hope. And if you ever let fear change your mind, Alpha gives you power. See, it's morphing time. Fear was never meant to be a part of your design. I want to divorce fear until I'm no longer that X-Man. And even in the midst of the storm, I still make my last stand. And if I ever go rogue, trying to find God's plan, I hope to see real bro come and find me again. Nightcrawl, if I must, if running, I can't, so set apart from this gray. It's in my gene. Don't you see I am mutant? I want to marvel in his love. Because there, fear can't live. When God meets your faith, nothing is impossible. You can read that where Luke is. God, his head coach, is undefeated like Saban, Nick, and the next time someone asks you, what's your greatest fear? You can tell them that they don't exist. 911, you don't have to send anybody. We got this. Thank you. Listen, I want you to know something. That every single one of you have the ability to overcome. That resiliency is innate in you, that everything that you need to come to the level of becoming a superhero was made from the time that you were created. Your story, your destiny, your purpose, everything you envision is ready right now. You have to make a decision. Will you stand up and fly forward, or will you sit down and take the weight? Resiliency is the key to your hope. Resiliency is a power for your future, and you don't have to wait for anybody to be your superhero. Super lives inside of you. I want to challenge every single one of you. Find a moment, build creativity, and envision what your greatest superhero and superpower is on the inside of you. You're amazing, you're valuable, and you are resilient. Thank you.